My name is Emma Wilson, and at 24, I never expected my college graduation day would become the sweetest revenge. Standing beside my sister Lily in our matching caps and gowns should have been simply joyful, but years of unfair treatment had built up to this moment. I still hear their cold words echoing. She deserved it, but you didn't. The memory of that night when my parents decided only my sister was worth investing in still stings. Before I reveal what made my parents' faces turn ghostly pale at our graduation, let me know where you're watching from in the comments and hit that like button if you've ever had to fight twice as hard for something that came easily to someone else. I grew up in a seemingly normal middle-class family in suburban Michigan. Our two-story house with the white picket fence looked perfect from the outside, complete with family photos displaying forced smiles that hid the complicated reality within. My parents, Robert and Diana Wilson, worked stable jobs, Dad as an accountant and Mom as a high school English teacher. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable enough that financial struggles weren't supposed to be in my future. My sister, Lily, was 2 years younger than me, but somehow always seemed miles ahead in our parents' eyes. With her perfect blonde curls, effortless academic achievements, and natural charm, she embodied everything they valued. From early childhood, the pattern was clear. Lily was the golden child, and I was the afterthought. I can still picture Christmas mornings where Lily would unwrap the latest expensive toys while I received practical items like socks or discount store craft kits. "Your sister needs more encouragement with her talents," Mom would explain when I questioned the disparity. Even at 8 years old, I recognized the unfairness, but learned to swallow my disappointment. School events highlighted the difference in their support. For Lily's science fairs, both parents would take the day off work, helping her create elaborate displays. For my art exhibitions, I was lucky if Mom showed up for 15 minutes during her lunch break. "Art is just a hobby, Emma. It won't get you anywhere in life," Dad would say dismissively. The only person who seemed to see me was my grandmother, Eleanor. During our summer visits to her lake house, she would sit with me for hours while I sketched the water and trees. "You have a special way of seeing the world, Emma," she would tell me. "Don't let anyone dim your light." Those summers with Grandma Eleanor became my sanctuary. In her small library, I discovered books about successful entrepreneurs and business leaders who had overcome obstacles. I began to develop dreams beyond just surviving my childhood, dreams of proving my worth through achievements my parents couldn't ignore. By high school, I had developed a resilient personality out of necessity. I joined every business-related club and excelled in math and economics, discovering a natural aptitude that surprised even my most supportive teachers. When I won the regional business plan competition as a sophomore, my economics teacher, Mr. Rivera, called my parents personally to tell them how exceptional my work was. "That's nice," Mom said after hanging up the phone. "Did you remember to help Lily with her history project? She has that big presentation tomorrow." During junior year, I worked after school at a local coffee shop to save money, sensing I would need my own resources in the future. I managed to maintain a 4.0 GPA despite working 20 hours a week. Meanwhile, Lily joined the debate team and instantly became the star, with my parents attending every tournament and celebrating each victory with special dinners. By senior year, both Lily and I were applying to colleges. Despite being 2 years apart, Lily had skipped a grade, putting us in the same graduating class. We both applied to the prestigious Westfield University, known for its excellent business and political science programs. Against all odds, we both got acceptance letters on the same day. I still remember the excitement I felt, hands trembling as I opened that thick envelope. "I got in," I announced at dinner, unable to contain my joy. "Full acceptance to the business program." My father glanced up briefly from his phone. "That's nice, Emma." Minutes later, Lily burst through the front door waving her own acceptance letter. "I got into Westfield's political science program," she shrieked. The transformation in my parents was immediate. Dad jumped up from his chair, Mom rushed to embrace Lily, and suddenly dinner was abandoned for an impromptu celebration complete with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for us. "We always knew you could do it," Mom gushed to Lily seemingly, forgetting I had announced the exact same achievement minutes earlier. 2 weeks later came the conversation that would change everything. We were having a family dinner, a rare occasion where everyone was present and phones were temporarily set aside. "We need to discuss college plans," Dad announced, folding his hands on the table. His eyes, however, were fixed solely on Lily. "We've been saving for your education since you were born. The Westfield tuition is steep, but we can cover it entirely so you can focus on your studies without worrying about money." Lily beamed with pride while I waited for my turn, assuming they had saved for both of us. The silence stretched uncomfortably until I finally spoke up. "What about my tuition?" I asked quietly. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as my parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Emma," my father said slowly, "we only have enough for one of you, and Lily has always shown more academic promise. We believe investing in her education will yield better returns." My mother reached across to pat my hand in what she probably thought was a comforting gesture. "You've always been more independent anyway. You can take out loans, or maybe consider a community college first." The words that followed burned themselves into my memory. "She deserved it, but you didn't." I stared at them, unable to process the depth of their betrayal. Years of smaller rejections had somehow not prepared me for this ultimate dismissal of my worth. In that moment, the thin threads holding our family together in my mind snapped completely. That night after the devastating dinner announcement, I locked myself in my bedroom and allowed the tears I'd been holding back to finally fall. The unfairness crushed me. 17 years of trying to earn my parents' approval culminating in this ultimate rejection. My 4.0 GPA, business competition wins, and acceptance to a prestigious university meant nothing to them. I had never been enough, and apparently I never would be. The next morning, puffy-eyed and exhausted, I confronted my parents in the kitchen before school. "How could you have saved college money for Lily but not for me?" I asked, my voice breaking, despite my attempts to stay composed. Mom sighed as she stirred her coffee. "Emma, it's not that simple. We had to make practical decisions with our limited resources." "But I have better grades than Lily," I countered. "I've been working part-time for 2 years while maintaining perfect academics. How is that not showing?" "Dedication?" Dad closed his newspaper with a sharp snap. "Your sister has always been dedicated to academics. You've been too distracted with other activities and that job of yours. Besides, Lily has a clear career path. Your business ideas are risky at best." "You never even asked about my plans," I whispered. "Look," Mom interjected, "we can help you fill out loan applications. Plenty of students finance their own education." The conversation ended there because they had already made their decision. In their minds, I was less deserving, less promising, and therefore less worthy of their investment. That weekend, I drove to my grandmother's house 2 hours away, seeking the only genuine support I knew. As I poured out the whole story, Grandma Eleanor listened without interruption, her weathered hands clasping mine tightly. "My darling girl," she finally said, wiping away my tears. "Sometimes life's most painful moments become our greatest catalyst. Your parents are wrong about you. Deeply, tragically wrong. But you have something they can't recognize. Unbreakable determination." Grandma couldn't offer financial help. Her fixed income barely covered her own expenses. But she gave me something more valuable. Unwavering belief in my potential. "Promise me you'll go to Westfield anyway," she said fiercely. "Don't let their limitations become yours." That night, I made my decision. I would attend Westfield alongside Lily, finance my own education, and graduate despite every obstacle. The next morning, I began researching scholarships, grants, work-study programs, and student loans. For weeks, I spent every spare moment completing applications. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Chen, stayed after school to help me navigate the complex financial aid system. "I've rarely seen a student as determined as you," she told me as we submitted my 25th scholarship application. I received several small scholarships, but not enough to cover the substantial Westfield tuition. With a mix of federal loans and private loans co-signed by Grandma Eleanor, I pieced together enough financing for my first year. Next came housing. While Lily would live in the expensive on-campus dormitories paid for by our parents, I found a tiny apartment 45 minutes from campus with 3 roommates I met through a university housing forum. Meanwhile, I applied for every job near campus. 2 weeks before move-in day, I secured a position at a busy coffee shop within walking distance of my cheapest classes, plus weekend shifts at a local bookstore. The contrast between our preparations was stark. My parents took Lily shopping for new clothes, a laptop, and dorm decorations. They helped her pack, arranged for professional movers, and planned an elaborate send-off party with family friends. I packed my belongings in second-hand suitcases and boxes scavenged from grocery stores. The night before I left, Mom awkwardly offered me some of her old twin sheets for my new bed. It was the only acknowledgement that I, too, was starting college. On move-in day, my parents drove Lily to campus, in our family SUV packed with her belongings. I followed behind in my decade-old Honda that frequently needed coolant and made concerning noises when I braked. No one had offered to check it before my 2-hour drive to my new life. As we parted ways at the campus entrance, my parents and Lily heading to her premium dorm, me continuing alone to my distant apartment, Mom called out, "Good luck, Emma. I hope this all works out for you." The doubt in her voice only strengthened my resolve. This wouldn't just work out. I would make it triumphant. My new apartment was a shock, peeling paint, unreliable plumbing, and roommates who were strangers. That first night, alone on my thin mattress with the sounds of traffic and neighbors arguing filtering through the walls, exhaustion overtook me. The enormity of what I was undertaking hit full force, and doubts crept in. Could I really work 30 hours weekly while taking a full course load? Would the constant financial stress crush my academic performance? Just as despair threatened to overwhelm me, my phone chimed with a text from Grandma Eleanor. "Remember, my brave girl, diamonds are only made under pressure. You're already shining." With those words in mind, I dried my tears and created a meticulous schedule mapping every hour of my upcoming weeks. Sleep would be limited, social life nearly non-existent, but my education and future would not be sacrificed. The financial aid office became my second home that first week. Ms. Winters, the assistant director, took a special interest in my situation after hearing my story. "You're taking on an enormous challenge," she said solemnly. "But I've seen students in your position succeed before. Just promise you'll come see me before things get overwhelming." That promise would become a lifeline in the months ahead. The day before classes started, I received an unexpected call from Mrs. Chen, my high school counselor. She had convinced the business department at my high school to award me an additional $1,000 scholarship. "It's not much," she apologized, "but the teachers all contributed personally. We believe in you, Emma." That small act of kindness from people who truly saw my potential gave me the final push of courage I needed. As I carefully added that precious amount to my budget spreadsheet, I felt something shift inside me, determination hardening into unbreakable resolve. Freshman year hit me like a hurricane. While most students were adjusting to college academics and enjoying newfound freedom, I was balancing 30 work hours weekly with a full course load of business classes. My typical day started at 5 in the morning with a 2-hour study session before rushing to my opening shift at the coffee shop. After classes, I'd head straight to my second job at the bookstore, often not returning to my apartment until after midnight. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. I learned to do readings during my commute, complete assignments during lunch breaks, and record lectures to listen to while cleaning the coffee machines. Every minute was scheduled, every resource stretched to its limit. The contrast between my life and Lily's couldn't have been more stark. Through occasional text messages and social media posts, I glimpsed her carefree college experience, sorority events, study abroad information sessions, and weekends visiting home for moms. Cooking. Meanwhile, I was calculating if I could afford both textbooks and groceries that month. Despite the grueling schedule, something unexpected happened. My business classes weren't just manageable, I was excelling. Years of practical financial planning and work experience had prepared me in ways my classmates weren't. While they struggled with basic accounting concepts, I was applying these principles in real time to my own complex financial situation. Professor Bennett, my business ethics instructor, stopped me after class one day during the second month. "Ms. Wilson, your analysis of the case study was exceptional, particularly your perspectives on resource allocation and family business dynamics. Your insights show remarkable maturity. For perhaps the first time, my struggles were translating into an academic advantage. My exhaustion was tempered by growing confidence in my capabilities. During this time, I was also blessed with an unexpected friendship that would change everything. My roommate Zoe noticed my punishing schedule and began leaving homemade meals in the refrigerator with my name on them. One night when I came home particularly exhausted, she was waiting up. "You can't keep going like this," she said bluntly, setting a cup of tea before me. "You'll burn out before midterms." When I explained my situation, her expression shifted from concern to indignation on my behalf. "That's beyond unfair," she declared. "From now on, consider me your college family." Zoe became my sanctuary in the storm. She edited my papers when fatigue made my words blur, created flashcards for my exams, and fiercely defended my study time from other roommates' interruptions. When she discovered I was skipping meals to save money, she insisted on cooking enough for both of us, refusing any payment beyond help with her own assignments. "My parents taught me that family takes care of each other," she explained simply. "And sometimes, the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into." Midway through sophomore year, disaster struck. The coffee shop reduced everyone's hours due to seasonal slowdowns, cutting my income by nearly 40%. My careful budget collapsed overnight. With rent due and a tuition payment looming, I faced my first major financial crisis. Panic rising. I remembered Ms. Winters from financial aid and made an emergency appointment. After reviewing my situation, she offered both practical advice and unexpected assistance. "Your academic performance qualifies you for an emergency grant," she explained. "And Professor Bennett has recommended you for a research assistant position in the business department. It pays better than the coffee shop and looks more impressive on a resume." The research position became another turning point. Working directly with Professor Bennett, I began assisting with her study on small business resilience during economic downturns. The flexible hours accommodated my class schedule, and the intellectual stimulation was a welcome change from preparing lattes. More importantly, Professor Bennett took a genuine interest in my future. "Have you considered entrepreneurship?" she asked one afternoon as we analyzed survey data. "Your perspective on resource constraint driving innovation is quite sophisticated." The seed of an idea that had been germinating since high school began to take root. Using skills from my marketing and digital media classes, I created a simple online platform offering virtual assistant services to local small businesses. Working late into the night, I built a website and developed service packages tailored to needs I had observed in my research with Professor Bennett. By the beginning of junior year, my small business was generating enough income to allow me to quit the bookstore job. I maintained my research position more for the mentorship than the money. Between the virtual assistant work, research stipend, and loans, I was finally achieving a precarious financial stability. As my business grew, so did my confidence. In business strategy class, I began speaking up more, sharing insights from my real-world entrepreneurial experience. Professors took notice, and classmates began seeking my advice on their projects. The girl who once felt invisible was becoming a respected voice in the department. Meanwhile, Lily and I maintained a cordial but distant relationship. She would occasionally invite me to sorority events or campus activities, which I nearly always declined due to work commitments. We rarely discussed our dramatically different college experiences, maintaining the surface-level conversation that had characterized our relationship since childhood. Our parents called Lily weekly, but reached out to me only for major holidays or family emergencies. During one Thanksgiving break when I couldn't afford the trip home, Mom texted, "We miss you at dinner, but we understand you're busy with your projects." The ellipsis spoke volumes about how they viewed my choices. Despite their continued dismissal, my academic performance was becoming impossible to ignore. I made the dean's list every semester, received departmental awards, and was invited to present at a regional business conference. Each achievement strengthened my determination to prove my path was just as valid as Lily's, perhaps even more so. By the end of junior year, my virtual assistant business had evolved into a proper digital marketing agency serving clients across the state. I hired 2 fellow business students as part-time associates, turning theoretical classroom knowledge into practical business growth. The business not only covered my living expenses but generated enough profit to start repaying some of my smaller loans early. Professor Bennett nominated me for the prestigious Entrepreneurial Excellence Scholarship, which covered my entire senior year tuition. "You've earned this through extraordinary effort," she told me when I received the award. "Your story exemplifies the very entrepreneurial spirit this university was founded upon." For the first time since starting college, I felt the crushing weight of financial insecurity begin to lift. The future I had glimpsed in those books at Grandma Eleanor's house was materializing through my own determined efforts. What I didn't realize was that my success story was becoming quietly famous within the business department. As I focused on surviving and thriving, seeds were being planted that would bloom in a most unexpected way at graduation. Senior year arrived with a momentum I could scarcely have imagined when I first stepped onto Westfield's campus. My digital marketing agency had grown to serve 15 regular clients and employed 4 part-time student workers. The business was featured in a local entrepreneurship magazine, bringing a steady stream of new clients and establishing my professional reputation beyond the university. Meanwhile, my academic performance had positioned me among the top students in the business school. Professor Bennett approached me in October with an unexpected opportunity. "The National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition is accepting entries," she said, sliding a brochure across her desk. "The grand prize includes $50,000 in business funding and national industry exposure. I think your agency, model specifically targeting rural small businesses, has a genuine shot." With her mentorship, I spent weeks refining my business plan and practicing my pitch. After 3 rounds of increasingly competitive judging, I made it to the final round scheduled for April, just 1 month before graduation. Ironically, as my professional trajectory soared, Lily began experiencing her first real academic struggles. The political science program's demanding senior thesis requirements exposed gaps in her research skills and work ethic. Years of coasting on natural talent and parental support had left her ill-prepared for this genuine challenge. One Tuesday evening in November, I received an unexpected knock on my apartment door. Opening it revealed a teary-eyed Lily clutching her laptop and a stack of research papers. "I'm failing my thesis seminar," she confessed in a rush. "Professor Goldstein says my research methodology is fundamentally flawed, and I have 3 weeks to completely restructure everything, or I might not graduate." Looking at my sister's genuine distress, I felt conflicting emotions. Part of me, the hurt, resentful part, thought this was karmic justice for years of preferential treatment. But another part recognized this moment as an opportunity to rise above the pain of our past. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Let's take a look." That night became the first of many study sessions. Through helping Lily, I discovered that my years of self-directed learning and rigorous time management had given me skills my sister never developed. My research experience with Professor Bennett proved invaluable as I guided Lily through proper academic methodology. As we worked together, something unexpected happened. We began to talk, really talk, for perhaps the first time in our lives. "How? Do you do it all?" Lily asked one night as we took a break. "Your business, perfect grades, research position. I can barely manage my coursework with nothing else on my plate." I explained my punishing schedule, the financial pressures, and the constant calculations required to stay afloat. Lily listened with growing horror. "I had no idea," she whispered. "Mom and Dad always just said you were doing fine." "Fine is relative," I replied. "I've worked 60-hour weeks for 4 years while taking full course loads. I've gone without meals, proper sleep, and any semblance of a social life." "But why didn't you ever say anything?" she asked. The question struck me as naively privileged. Would it have changed anything? Would Mom and Dad suddenly have decided I was worth investing in too? The conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. As Lily began to recognize the inequality that had shaped our lives, she became my unexpected ally. She started declining expensive parental gifts, explaining she preferred to manage on her own, like her sister. By January, our weekly study sessions had become a genuine connection. Lily's thesis was back on track, and she had begun to develop a new appreciation for the discipline and perseverance she'd always lacked. Meanwhile, my own senior project had attracted attention from the university administration. Dean Rodriguez head of the business school, invited me to her office in February. "Your journey at Westfield has been extraordinary," she began. "From financing your own education to building a successful business while maintaining academic excellence, it's precisely the kind of success story we want to highlight." She explained that the university selected one exceptional student annually to deliver a short address at graduation. "We would like you to consider representing the business school this year," she said. "Your story embodies the entrepreneurial spirit and determination we aim to instill in all our graduates." The opportunity to speak at graduation, to publicly claim my achievements before my parents and the entire university community, felt like the culmination of everything I had worked toward. I accepted immediately. What I didn't know was that Dean Rodriguez had more planned than just a student address. The details would remain confidential until the ceremony itself. As April approached, the business competition became my focus. My presentation to the judges incorporated everything I had learned about resilience, resource optimization, and creating value from constraint. When the panel announced my victory, I felt a validation that transcended the prize money and publicity. I had transformed my greatest challenges into my competitive advantage. The university newspaper ran a front-page story about my win, featuring a photo of me accepting the oversized check and trophy. I sent a copy to Grandma Eleanor, who called me sobbing with pride. "I always knew you were extraordinary," she said. "Now everyone else knows it too." My parents, notably, did not mention the article or the award. Their silence had long since ceased to surprise me. 2 weeks before graduation, our parents arrived in town to help Lily prepare. They rented a large house for the extended family coming to celebrate and planned an elaborate party for after the key ceremony. I received a perfunctory invitation that made clear I was an afterthought. "We assumed you'd be busy with work," Mom explained when I mentioned being excluded from the family dinner the night before graduation. "But you're welcome to join if you can make it." The dismissal stung, but less sharply than it once would have. My worth was no longer tied to their recognition. The day before graduation, Grandma Eleanor arrived with a special gift, a custom graduation stole embroidered with words that had sustained me through the darkest times. "Diamonds are made under pressure. Wear this proudly," she said, eyes shining. "You've earned every thread." That evening, during the graduation rehearsal, Dean Rodriguez pulled me aside with a conspiratorial smile. "Everything is arranged for tomorrow," she said. "Just be prepared for a slightly extended introduction before your speech." When I asked what she meant, she merely winked. Some surprises are worth waiting for. Later that night, the extended family gathered for dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents crowded around tables pushed together to accommodate everyone. My parents held court at the center, regaling everyone with stories of Lily's accomplishments and post-graduation plans. My mother's brother, Uncle Jack, eventually interrupted. "What about Emma? I heard she won some big business competition." Father waved dismissively. "Oh, Emma's been busy with her little side projects. Very entrepreneurial, our Emma." The patronizing tone made clear that in his mind, my achievements remained secondary to Lily's traditional academic success. I caught my sister's eye across the table and saw her visible discomfort. After dinner, Grandma Eleanor cornered my parents in the restaurant lobby. Though I couldn't hear the conversation, the tense postures and my father's defensive gestures told me she was taking them to task for their continued dismissal of my accomplishments. As I returned to my apartment that night, I felt strangely calm. Tomorrow would bring the culmination of 4 years of relentless effort. Whatever happened with my family, I had proven my worth to myself, and that, I realized, was what truly mattered. The morning of graduation dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating with us. I woke early, unable to sleep through the mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Today marked not just the completion of my degree, but the vindication of my chosen path. My phone chimed with a text from Lily. "Good morning, graduate. See you at the robing area. So proud to be walking with you today." The simple message reflected how far our relationship had evolved. From distant siblings shaped by parental favoritism, we had found our way to something like genuine friendship. After a quick breakfast, I carefully dressed in the outfit I'd splurged on for this occasion, a new dress beneath my graduation gown, sensible but stylish shoes I could walk in confidently. As I fastened Grandma Eleanor's special stole around my shoulders, I allowed myself a moment to truly feel the weight of this accomplishment. 4 years ago, my parents had deemed me unworthy of investment. Today, I would graduate not just with honors, but with a thriving business and national recognition. The journey had been brutally difficult, but the woman who emerged was stronger than I could have imagined. Zoe insisted on driving me to campus. "Your carriage awaits, boss lady," she joked, but I could see the genuine pride in her eyes. "No more bus rides for you today." The campus buzzed with activity as families in their Sunday best navigated between buildings, consulting maps and taking photos. At the student assembly area, graduates in black robes clustered like elegant crows, adjusting caps and comparing honors cords. I spotted Lily instantly, her blonde hair visible even from a distance. She rushed over when she saw me, embracing me with unexpected emotion. "Can you believe we made it?" she asked, straightening my cap. "Though I barely scraped by while you conquered the world," her humility was still new enough to surprise me. "We both made it our own way," I replied diplomatically. The ceremony coordinator began arranging us in alphabetical order, which would place Lily and me close together in the processional. As we found our positions, I noticed Dean Rodriguez approaching, with purpose. "Ms. Wilson," she said, pulling me gently aside. "Just confirming our arrangement. After the conferring of degrees, the president will announce special recognitions. You'll be called up first for your address, and then—" She lowered her voice. "We have a few additional acknowledgments planned." When I asked for details, she smiled mysteriously. "Better to let it unfold naturally. Just be prepared for a moment in the spotlight." The graduates began filing into the auditorium to the traditional pomp and circumstance. Through the windows, I caught glimpses of the audience, thousands of family members and friends filling the massive space with excited chatter and occasional shouts of recognition. As we marched down the center aisle, I scanned the family section and spotted my parents seated in premium positions near the front. Dad wore his navy suit reserved for important client meetings, while Mom had chosen an elaborate floral dress and hat combination that screamed, "important occasion." Their eyes tracked Lily with obvious pride as she walked just a few people ahead of me. Grandma Eleanor sat beside them, elegant in her simple blue dress, her gaze fixed firmly on me. When our eyes met, she nodded once, a gesture containing all her fierce pride and love. The ceremony proceeded with the expected speeches about future potential and the responsibility of education. I half listened, mentally rehearsing my upcoming address while managing the butterflies in my stomach. Finally, the moment arrived for the conferring of degrees. We rose by departments, crossing the stage to receive our diplomas and shake hands with university officials. When my name was called, I heard Grandma Eleanor's distinctive whistle cutting through the polite applause. Lily, returning to her seat, gave me a thumbs up as we passed each other. After the degrees were conferred, University President Harlow approached the podium again. Before we conclude today's ceremony, we have several special recognitions to present. First, I invite Emma Wilson of the School of Business to deliver this year's student address. As I made my way to the stage, I caught a glimpse of my parents. For the first time that day, they were looking directly at me, confusion evident in their expressions. Clearly, they hadn't expected their less promising daughter to receive this honor. Taking the podium, I drew a deep breath and began. 4 years ago, I arrived at Westfield with nothing but determination and the belief that education should be earned, not given. Today, I stand before you having worked 30 hours weekly while maintaining a full course load, building a successful business that employs fellow students, and graduating with highest honors. I spoke about resilience, about finding strength in adversity, and about redefining success on your own terms. Without directly mentioning my parents, I addressed the pain of being underestimated and the power of proving skeptics wrong. The greatest gift of my Westfield education wasn't found in textbooks or lectures, though those were valuable. It was discovering that limitations placed upon us by others need not become our own limitations. Each of us has the capacity to transcend expectations and create our own definitions of success. As I concluded my speech to enthusiastic applause, President Harlow returned to the microphone. What happened next would forever change the dynamics of my family. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for those inspiring words. And now, I have the distinct pleasure of announcing several special recognitions that exemplify the excellence we strive for at Westfield. He paused dramatically, glancing down at his notes. First, the faculty of the School of Business has unanimously selected Emma Wilson as this year's valedictorian, graduating with a perfect 4.0 GPA while simultaneously building a business now valued at over 6 figures. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. I stood frozen beside the podium, not having expected this public acknowledgement. Additionally, the president continued, Ms. Wilson is this year's winner of the National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition, bringing unprecedented recognition to our university's entrepreneurship program. The audience's applause grew stronger. I dared a glance toward my parents and saw their expressions shifting from confusion to shock. What many of you may not know, President Harlow went on, his voice carrying clearly through the silent auditorium, is that Ms. Wilson accomplished these extraordinary achievements while fully self-financing her education, working multiple jobs, building her business, and maintaining academic excellence without any family financial support. The revelation sent a visible ripple through the audience. Parents looked at each other with expressions ranging from disbelief to admiration. In recognition of her extraordinary journey, I am pleased to announce that Ms. Wilson has been offered a position with Alexander Global Consulting, one of the nation's premier business strategy firms. Furthermore, her entrepreneurial journey will be featured in next month's edition of Business Innovation magazine as their cover story on rising entrepreneurial talent. The audience erupted in a standing ovation. Through the thunderous applause, I watched as my parents' faces drained of color, their expressions morphing from shock to something approaching horror as they realized everyone now knew they had refused to support the daughter being celebrated as the university's most outstanding graduate. Lily stood among the graduates, clapping wildly with tears streaming down her face. Grandma Eleanor remained seated only because her arthritic knees wouldn't allow her to stand quickly, but her proud smile could have lit the entire auditorium. As the applause finally quieted, President Harlow made one final announcement. In honor of Ms. Wilson's extraordinary example, the University Board has established the Emma Wilson Resilience Scholarship, providing financial assistance to students demonstrating exceptional determination in overcoming obstacles to their education. The symbolic victory was complete. Not only had I succeeded despite my parents' lack of faith, but my name would be permanently associated with supporting others facing similar challenges. As I returned to my seat amidst continued applause, Lily grabbed my hand and squeezed it tightly. "You are amazing," she whispered fiercely. "And they were so wrong about you." The remainder of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it concluded, graduates scattered to find their families among the dispersing crowd. I saw my parents standing, awkwardly with Grandma Eleanor, their usual confident postures replaced by uncomfortable stiffness. Several professors and classmates stopped me to offer congratulations, delaying my approach to the family gathering. When I finally reached them, my father attempted a jovial tone that rang hollowly against the tension. "Well, this was quite a surprise," he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "You've been holding out on us, Emma." The casual dismissal of all my hard work, as if I'd merely been keeping secrets rather than struggling while they ignored me, might once have devastated me. Now, it barely registered. "Not at all," I replied coolly. "I've been exactly who I've always been. You just weren't paying attention." Before they could respond, Lily stepped forward and put her arm around my shoulders in a clear display of solidarity. "Everyone's talking about Emma's speech and accomplishments," she announced loudly enough for nearby families to hear. "Isn't it amazing how she managed to achieve all this without any support? I can't imagine how much more she could have done if she'd had the same advantages I did." Our mother flinched visibly at the public acknowledgement of their favoritism. Nearby, Uncle Jack and several other relatives watched the interaction with newly critical eyes. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation at home," Dad suggested tersely, clearly uncomfortable with the public scrutiny. "Actually," I replied, "I have a celebration with my business team and mentors this afternoon. They've been my real support system these past 4 years, and I wouldn't miss it for anything." Grandma Eleanor stepped forward then, taking my hand in her gnarled one. "I'm coming with you," she declared. "I want to meet these wonderful people who recognized what your own parents couldn't see." The blunt statement hung in the air between us. For perhaps the first time, I saw genuine regret flash across my mother's face. "We're very proud of you, of course," she attempted weakly. "Thank you," I replied with dignified grace. "But I've learned that external validation isn't necessary for success. Today isn't about gaining your approval, it's about celebrating the journey I made without it." As Grandma Eleanor and I turned to leave, Lily made a quick decision. "I'm coming too," she announced, stepping away from our parents to join us. The sight of their two daughters walking away, both having outgrown the constraints of their expectations in different ways, left my parents standing alone amidst the celebrating families, their carefully constructed narratives about their children visibly crumbling before the undeniable truth. The scene at the post-graduation celebration in the business school atrium could not have been more different from the tense family interaction earlier. Professor Bennett had arranged an elegant reception for faculty, outstanding graduates, and industry partners. Crystal punch bowls, elegant hors d'oeuvres, and congratulatory banners created a genuinely celebratory atmosphere. Lily looked around with wide eyes as we entered. "This is so different from the political science reception," she whispered. "Everyone seems to actually know each other." "The business department became my home," I explained. "These people saw me, really saw me, when our parents couldn't." Zoe rushed over immediately, engulfing me in a tight hug before introducing herself to Grandma Eleanor and Lily. "I've heard so much about both of you," she said warmly. "The supportive grandmother and the sister who finally woke up." Lily blushed but accepted the gentle teasing good-naturedly. "Better late than never, I hope." Dean Rodriguez approached next, champagne flutes in hand. "The woman of the hour," she beamed, passing around the glasses. "And this must be the grandmother, who believed in you from the beginning." As they chatted, I watched Lily observing this network of supporters I'd built, people who valued me for my actual accomplishments rather than some preconceived notion of potential. The contrast with our parents' conditional approval was stark. "Ms. Wilson," called a distinguished woman in a sleek business suit, approaching our group. "Jennifer Alexander, founder of Alexander Global Consulting. Your presentation at the business competition was extraordinary. I'm thrilled you've accepted our offer." "Thank you for the opportunity," I replied, shaking her hand firmly. "I'm excited to join your team." Jennifer smiled warmly. "With your combination of academic excellence and practical experience, you're exactly what we look for. Not many new graduates have already built a successful business from scratch." As she moved away to greet other guests, Lily's expression registered shock. "You didn't tell me you'd be working for Alexander Global. That's one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the country." I smiled modestly. "It happened quickly after the competition. The salary is significant." "More than Dad makes, I'd guess," Lily said thoughtfully. The celebration continued with speeches from faculty and presentations of departmental awards. I received the Outstanding Entrepreneurship Award, presented by Professor Bennett with tears in her eyes as she recounted my journey from determined freshman to business owner and department star. Throughout the afternoon, I introduced Grandma Eleanor to everyone who had supported me, professors who had mentored me, classmates who had become business associates, university staff who had helped me navigate financial challenges. Each greeting included the person sharing a specific memory of how I had impressed them or contributed to the department. "I had no idea," Lily murmured after the 10th such introduction. "All these people admire you so much." Midway through the reception, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "The family is gathering at the rental house for dinner at 6. Please join us. We want to celebrate both our graduates." I showed the message to Lily and Grandma Eleanor. "What do you think, Grandma?" Snorted. "A bit late to play the proud parents now, isn't it?" Lily looked conflicted. "They're trying, I guess, in their way." "We don't have to decide right now," I said, pocketing my phone. "Let's enjoy this moment first." As the reception wound down, Professor Bennett approached with a campus photographer. "The business magazine wants a photo of you with your family for the feature article. Are they here?" The question created an awkward pause. "My grandmother and sister are here," I replied carefully. My parents are elsewhere at the moment. Understanding dawned in her eyes. The family that matters is the one that supports you, she said kindly. Let's get a photo of you three. The photographer arranged us near the business school emblem, Grandma Eleanor beaming proudly with an arm around each granddaughter, Lily and I in our graduation regalia, my special stole prominently displayed. As we were leaving the reception, Dean Rodriguez handed me a business card. The Dean of Admissions at Westfield's MBA program asked me to give you this. They're very interested in discussing a full scholarship if you decide to continue your education while working. The opportunities continuing to unfold before me stood in stark contrast to what my parents had once envisioned, or failed to envision, for my future. Should we go to the family dinner? I asked as we walked to Zoe's car. Grandma Eleanor took my hand. That decision is entirely yours, my dear. You owe them nothing. But, she added after a thoughtful pause, there might be value in allowing them to see exactly who you've become. Not for their sake, but for yours. Lily nodded in agreement. Plus, I'd like to see Uncle Jack grill them about why they never mentioned your business or awards before today. Decision made, we drove to the rental house where extended family had gathered. Conversations hushed noticeably as we entered, then erupted in enthusiastic greetings as relatives rushed to congratulate both Lily and me. Mom appeared from the kitchen, her earlier confident demeanor replaced by uncharacteristic nervousness. Emma, you came, she said, attempting a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We were just about to serve dinner. Dad approached with forced joviality. There's my successful daughters, he announced loudly, as if he'd been proudly proclaiming my achievements all along. Emma, why didn't you tell us about this big consulting job? The audacity of his question, after years of disinterest in my activities, momentarily stunned me into silence. Before I could respond, Uncle Jack interjected. Probably because you haven't asked about her plans once in the past 4 years, Robert, he said bluntly. At least not in any family gathering I've attended. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Dad's face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and anger. We've always supported both our daughters, he insisted defensively. Financially? Aunt Susan asked innocently. Because the university president seemed pretty clear about Emma putting herself through school while building a business. My mother jumped in quickly. We had limited resources and had to make difficult choices. Emma has always been very independent. Independent by necessity, not by choice, Grandma Eleanor corrected sharply. Let's not rewrite history now that her success has become inconvenient to your narrative. The tension in the room was palpable. Cousins exchanged uncomfortable glances while my parents struggled to maintain their composure under this unexpected family scrutiny. Lily, surprising everyone, spoke up clearly. Mom, Dad, I think it's time to acknowledge the truth. You favored me from childhood. You invested everything in me and nothing in Emma. You were wrong about her potential, and today everyone saw that. Mom's eyes filled with tears, whether from genuine remorse or embarrassment at being called out so publicly was difficult to determine. We never meant to, she began weakly. Impact matters more than intent, I interjected calmly. Your choices shaped my reality regardless of what you meant to do. Dad, unaccustomed to having his authority questioned, attempted to regain control of the situation. This is hardly the time for family laundry. We're here to celebrate. Yes, agreed Aunt Susan pointedly. We're celebrating Emma's extraordinary achievements accomplished entirely without your support. Rather remarkable topic for a family gathering, wouldn't you say? The family dinner proceeded with strained conversation. My relatives, seeing me through new eyes, directed questions about my business and career plans. With each accomplishment I described, my parents' discomfort visibly increased as the magnitude of what they had dismissed became clearer. By the time dessert was served, the family dynamics had shifted noticeably. Where my parents had always been the authoritative center of family gatherings, their judgment now stood questioned. The daughter they had deemed less worthy had proven herself exceptional by any objective measure, undermining their credibility entirely. As the evening concluded, relatives departed with warm congratulations and, in several cases, business cards and offers of professional connections. The extended family's recognition and support, though belated, felt genuinely validating. When only immediate family remained, Dad attempted a conciliatory gesture. "Emma, your mother and I have been discussing, and we'd like to help you with the security deposit on an apartment near your new job, as a graduation gift." The offer, so small compared to 4 years of tuition they had provided Lily, would once have meant everything to me. Now, it felt almost offensive in its inadequacy. "Thank you, but that won't be necessary," I replied evenly. "My starting salary at Alexander Global will be $90,000 annually, plus performance bonuses. My housing is quite secure." The figure, substantially more than my father currently earned, landed like a physical blow. His expression cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally a grudging recognition that the daughter he had dismissed had surpassed his own achievements. "Well," he said finally, struggling to maintain composure, "you've certainly proven yourself capable." "Yes," I agreed simply. "I have. Not that I needed to prove anything to anyone but myself." As we prepared to leave, Lily pulled me aside. "I'm staying with Grandma Eleanor for a few days before moving to my new apartment. Would you want to join us? Like a mini family vacation with the family members who actually matter?" The suggestion, so simple yet so profound in its reorganization of family bonds, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "I'd love that," I whispered. As we departed, leaving my parents standing uncertainly in the doorway of their rented showcase house, I felt centuries of weight lifting from my shoulders. Their approval, so desperately sought for most of my life, had become irrelevant in the face of my own verified worth. The family I was choosing, Grandma Eleanor, Lily, Zoe, my mentors and supporters, was the one that had seen my value all along. And that recognition meant infinitely more than belated acknowledgement from those who had refused to see until it became impossible to deny. The weeks following graduation brought a whirlwind of changes. I moved into a comfortable apartment near the Alexander Global offices, using part of my competition winnings for the security deposit and furnishings. My small business continued, operating under the management of my student team, now properly employed with fair wages and flexible schedules accommodating their studies. Meanwhile, the promised magazine feature was published, complete with the photo of Grandma Eleanor, Lily, and me at graduation. The article detailed my journey from self-financing freshman to award-winning entrepreneur and consulting hire, positioning my story as an example of determination overcoming obstacles. I sent copies to Professor Bennett, Dean Rodriguez, and everyone else who had supported me along the way. My relationship with my parents entered uncertain territory. 2 weeks after graduation, they requested a Sunday lunch meeting at a neutral restaurant location. The conversation was awkward, but represented their first genuine attempt to reconcile. "We've done a lot of thinking," Mom began carefully, "about the choices we made and the assumptions that guided them." Dad, less comfortable with emotional conversations, added stiffly, "We may have misjudged your potential." The understatement was almost comical given recent events, but I recognized that acknowledgement, however inadequate, represented significant movement for them. "Yes," I agreed simply. "You did." "We'd like to try to repair our relationship," Mom continued, "if you're willing." I considered their request thoughtfully. The wounded child in me wanted to reject them outright, to inflict the same pain of dismissal I had felt for years, but the woman I had become recognized that continuing that cycle would only extend the damage. "I'm open to developing a new relationship," I said finally, "but it would need to be just that. New. Built on who I actually am, not who you thought I was or wished I would be." "That seems fair," Dad conceded, his typical confidence notably subdued. "And it would require acknowledgement that what happened wasn't just a misunderstanding or an unfortunate circumstance. It was favoritism that caused real harm." This requirement clearly made them uncomfortable, but after exchanging glances, they nodded. "We did favor Lily," Mom admitted quietly. "We saw her as the safer investment because she fit our expectations of success. We were wrong, and our mistake hurt you deeply. I'm truly sorry, Emma." The genuine accountability, while imperfect, was more than I had expected. It opened a door to possible reconciliation, though the path forward would be neither quick nor easy. Over the summer, I began my position at Alexander Global while maintaining regular contact with Lily and Grandma Eleanor. Lily had secured an entry-level position with a nonprofit organization focused on educational equity, a career choice seemingly influenced by her new awareness of privilege and opportunity gaps. "I keep thinking about how different our paths were," she confessed during one of our weekly sister dinners. "And how many other students face the obstacles you did, but without your exceptional drive to overcome them." Her growing social consciousness pleased me more than any apology could have. My sister was evolving beyond the golden child identity our parents had constructed for her, developing genuine empathy and purpose. By autumn, I had settled into a productive rhythm with my consulting work while continuing to oversee the digital marketing agency. My first performance review brought praise from senior partners and an unexpected bonus: financial security. That elusive condition I had chased for years was finally mine. During a weekend visit to Grandma Eleanor's lake house, she presented me with a small wooden box while we sat on her porch watching the sunset. "I've been saving this for the right moment," she explained. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet. "This was given to me by my grandmother when I finished school," she said. "She told me it was a reminder that a woman's worth comes from within, not from others' assessment. I've held it all these years for a granddaughter who would truly understand its significance." As she fastened it around my wrist, she added, "Your journey has been harder than it should have been, Emma. But the woman you've become through that struggle is extraordinary in ways an easier path might never have revealed." Her words crystallized something I had been feeling but struggling to articulate: that while the unfairness I experienced wasn't justified, the strengths developed through that adversity had become integral to my identity and success. On the one-year anniversary of graduation, I used a portion of my savings and business profits to establish the first-generation achievement scholarship at Westfield University. Unlike traditional scholarships focused solely on academic metrics, this fund specifically supported students demonstrating extraordinary determination in overcoming family or financial obstacles. The selection committee should consider not just where students are, but what they've overcome to get there, I instructed when finalizing the endowment details. The first recipient, a young woman working 2 jobs while studying accounting and caring for her younger siblings, reminded me powerfully of myself. The difference was that now she would have the support I had lacked. My parents, gradually earning limited trust through consistent effort, attended the scholarship announcement ceremony. As they listened to my speech about creating opportunity, ladders for others to climb, I noticed something new in their expressions. Not just regret for past mistakes, but genuine pride untainted by comparison or condition. "You've created something meaningful," Dad acknowledged afterward, the closest he had come to expressing genuine admiration. Mom added more directly, "You've become someone who turns her own pain into purpose. That's rare and valuable." While these small recognitions mattered, I had learned perhaps the most important lesson of my journey. External validation, even from parents, was ultimately secondary to internal conviction. My worth hadn't changed when they finally acknowledged it. Their perception had simply caught up to the reality that had been there all along. Lily and I continued strengthening our authentic sisterhood, untangling it from the comparative framework our parents had created. During a Saturday hiking trip, she asked the question that had clearly been on her mind for some time. "Do you think you'll ever fully forgive them?" I considered this carefully as we reached a scenic overlook. "Forgiveness isn't a single decision," I replied finally. "It's an ongoing process of releasing the expectation that the past could have been different. I don't think I'll ever forget being told I wasn't worth investing in," I continued honestly. "But I'm working toward not letting that moment define my relationship with them going forward. That's the forgiveness I'm capable of right now." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "For what it's worth, their greatest loss was not knowing who you really were all those years." As I looked out over the vast landscape below us, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. From the devastated teenager hearing, "She deserved it, but you didn't," to the accomplished professional creating opportunities for others. The transformation wasn't just in my circumstances, but in my fundamental understanding of self-worth. The real victory wasn't proving my parents wrong, though that satisfaction was undeniable. The deeper triumph was discovering that their assessment had never actually defined me. I had always been capable, valuable, and worthy of investment. Their failure to see it reflected their limitations, not mine. Perhaps that's the most powerful realization for anyone who has been underestimated or dismissed. Your value exists independently of others' ability to recognize it. The opinions that limited you speak to the imagination deficits of others, not to your inherent potential. In the end, being underestimated became my greatest advantage. It forced me to develop resilience, self-reliance, and determination that served me long after the initial injury had healed. The very qualities my parents failed to nurture became the foundation of a success they couldn't have envisioned. Not because I wasn't capable, but because their vision was too limited to encompass who I could become. Have you ever been underestimated by someone whose opinions seemed to define your worth? How did you find the strength to prove them wrong, or more importantly, to prove your value to yourself? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this journey of overcoming family expectations resonated with you. Remember, sometimes those who believe in you the least can motivate you the most, not to earn their approval, but to discover just how far beyond their limited vision you can truly soar. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope my story inspires you to recognize your own inherent worth, regardless of who fails to see it.